Everyone says confidence is quiet, that the most powerful woman in the room is the one who says the least. Measured, composed, unbothered. But that idea has been oversimplified, and in certain rooms, it quietly works against you. Because sometimes, silence doesn't read as power. It reads as absence. And no one tells you that part. Not directly, not in the advice, not in the aesthetics. Because quiet confidence sounds elegant. It feels safe. It looks refined from the outside. But inside certain environments, it creates a very different outcome. 1. The misunderstood rule. Quiet confidence became popular because it works. It signals control, self-possession, emotional discipline. And in the right setting, it's magnetic. It suggests you don't need validation. You don't need to compete for space. You don't need to prove anything. But somewhere along the way, women started treating silence like a standard instead of a strategy. And that shift is subtle, but costly. Because confidence was never meant to be quiet all the time. It was meant to be precise. There's a difference between choosing not to speak and hesitating to speak. And most people in the room can feel it, even if they can't explain it. There was a woman in a meeting. She had the strongest idea in the room. Not the loudest, not the most polished, but the most useful. You could see it in how she listened, how she tracked the conversation, how she waited for the right moment. But the room didn't slow down for her. The conversation moved quickly. Voices overlapped. Energy escalated. And she stayed composed, still, observant, patient. And then, someone else said her idea. Not better, not sharper, just earlier. And the room responded. They nodded. They built on it. They gave it weight. And she stayed quiet, because now it was too late. That's the part no one prepares you for. Timing doesn't wait for composure. 2. When silence backfires. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Silence is only powerful when people already perceive you as powerful. If they don't, silence gets interpreted, and rarely in your favor. It becomes uncertainty, hesitation, lack of clarity, even when none of those are true. And once that perception settles, it becomes your starting point. Not your intention, your reputation. And reputations are expensive to correct. 2 women walk into the same space. Same level of intelligence, same level of preparation, but different approaches. One speaks early, not excessively, not loudly, just enough to anchor her presence. The other waits. She observes. She listens carefully. She chooses restraint. At first, they seem equal. But as the room moves forward, one becomes part of the structure of the conversation. The other becomes peripheral to it. And this is where it becomes interesting. Because the quieter woman hasn't done anything wrong. She's followed the rules. Don't interrupt. Don't dominate. Don't over-explain. But she's also disappeared. And invisibility doesn't look like failure. It looks like neutrality, which is far more dangerous. 3. Confidence is range. This is where most people misunderstand confidence. It's not quiet, it's not loud, it's adaptive. Confidence is range. It's knowing when to enter, when to pause, when to assert, when to observe, and more importantly, when the moment requires you to shift. But here's the deeper layer. Range requires awareness, not just of yourself, but of the room, the pace, the personalities, the power dynamics. High-status women don't rely on one mode. They don't cling to silence to feel composed. And they don't default to speaking to feel seen. They adjust, subtly, precisely, without overthinking it. Real confidence isn't quiet, it's calibrated. She may not speak often, but when she does, it's early enough to register and intentional enough to matter. She doesn't wait for perfect timing. She recognizes that in some rooms, perfect timing doesn't exist. only missed windows. 4. The danger of over-restraint. There's a version of elegance that looks refined on the outside, but underneath, it's hesitation. It's the fear of interrupting, being wrong, taking up too much space, disguised as composure. And this is where it becomes costly. Because over-restraint doesn't just affect how you feel, it affects what you're given. Opportunities, recognition, influence. Rooms reward visibility, not noise, but presence. And presence requires participation. Over-restraint can make you forgettable, delay your positioning, remove you from key moments. And the hardest part? It feels correct. It feels like discipline, like elegance, like self-control, which makes it very difficult to question. 5. The social misread. What makes this more complicated is that different women are read differently. The same silence does not carry the same meaning. One woman is perceived as mysterious, another is perceived as unsure. One is seen as composed, another is seen as disengaged. The behavior is identical, the interpretation is not. And this is where strategy becomes necessary. Not performance, not overcompensation, just awareness. Because relying only on silence assumes the room already understands you. And often, it doesn't. 6. The shift. So the shift isn't to become louder. That's not the answer, because volume without control creates a different kind of problem. The shift is this. Stop using silence as protection. Start using it as placement. Speak earlier than feels comfortable. Not constantly, just enough to establish presence. Let your voice exist in the room before the moment becomes crowded. Pause when it adds weight, not when it removes you. Enter conversations, don't orbit them. The most powerful women aren't the quietest, and they're not the loudest either. They're the most aware. They understand timing, energy, context. They know when restraint adds value and when it quietly costs them. Sometimes they say very little, and it lands. Other times they speak directly, and it shifts everything. Because they're not following a rule, they're reading the room and responding accordingly. She's not always quiet, she's just never absent.